to stream. Hey, cool. So today I'm gonna do another street epistemology review. So the first one I couldn't record because I had to wait like 24 hours for YouTube to start streaming. And I'm not sure if I am on YouTube right now. Let me see, view on YouTube. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try to Peter Boghossian's still visible. Yeah, I am. So I listened to both of his books, and I think a lot of the techniques that he describes in his books seem to be very useful. I haven't watched one of his videos directly. I've seen a review of one of his videos where he basically was not doing street epistemology, to be honest. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I am on. Oh, that's great. What? Why is it stopping? Anyway, oh, okay, don't. Okay, I am not going to watch this live because I think it's gonna mess with my streaming capability, or maybe I should just mute it. Yeah, and play and go live because I just want to be able to see. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let me first do this. I want to do this. Okay, and I want to say share. Which one? That one. So the reason for this video is I haven't actually seen the video that I'm gonna watch now, so it's gonna be fresh for me. But I really I don't think Peter Boghossian is really well versed in his own techniques, to be honest, from what I saw in the first video. And I think he's appealing not to actual, let's say, truth or logic. He's appealing to a certain kind of people almost. I don't know. That it feels a bit biased to me. He's out there trying to change people's minds rather than trying to get people to think about their beliefs and get them to explore their beliefs. He's not really exploring people's beliefs. He's like, well, in a sense, he's probably exploring it, but he's not exploring it in the sense that I would like to see him do it. Like, it's all about him, owning the libs. Showing the liberals their how wrong they are through logic and science and facts, and that's just not how you. I don't think that's a good way to have political discourse. I think actual street epistemology is a good way, but I don't think he's doing it really well. So we'll see in this video, and I'm gonna put it on a bit faster speed as well. I just want to make sure settings when I share. Okay, no, let's do this. Okay, so let's just get into the video, and here it is. Okay, first I'm gonna share my screen. Share screen. Close screen. Window. No. Chrome tab. Yeah. So let's share this one. Yeah. I think it's this one. Okay. So the question here, what is going Richard Wolf? What? I thought I was on a... No. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. What in the world? Let's go back. Why would it have played? Oh, I see. There's some... Okay, so he's going around and he's presenting claims to people, which are supposedly contentious, I think, political claims, or yeah, it's mostly got to do with like woke ideology and radical leftism. So this is at Colorado State University. Colorado State University. Okay. Let's see. It's a 27-minute video. Oh my goodness. Let's share my screen again. Okay. Entire screen, share system audio. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. Okay. I'm now sharing. Let's go here. Okay. So I wonder if you can actually on YouTube hear this. I hope so.
Sexual orientation should not be discussed in elementary school. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Oh, shit. Okay.
Okay, so straight off the bat, he chose 3 of the most likely candidates to move to the same side. I don't understand that, but okay, let's go. I just quickly want to do something here. All right, and then I want to go here. I want to put the speed up. Settings, playback speed. Yeah. Put it on 1.5. Okay. So I just want to see. Okay. I hope the sound's getting through well. I really hope so. Let's see. I actually want to see. I'm so full of shit. I want to see if it's okay. Be careful sharing screen audio. If you have a guest, they will hear themselves. You're sharing everything you hear, including their voice. This won't happen. Okay, cool. I think I got that. So I just want to see the different layouts. Let me stop sharing, and then let me go into this. Let me say share your screen. A window, not Chrome tab. Can I only share that one? Yes. Okay. So that one is being shared. Great. And I want to look like. See this? I'm not crazy about this one. I'm too big. No. Stop. Please stop. Okay. So let's get back. So first of all, his choices of participants aren't great. I'm not going to see anything contentious, I think, to be honest. So let's see. Exit full screen. Then I want to go here. And then I want to go to full screen. Yeah. It's loading. I mean, couldn't there have been one of these women joining Vision? Why don't I want to be guys just chatting about this? Come on.
Okay.
This is
So, by the way,
really
this is why
loud.
you actually need intellectual diversity in your
Ouch.
classrooms, right? This is why you need intellectual diversity.
Okay.
But do you
That's
actually
just
believe
a
that?
bunch of
No,
nonsense.
we need. Okay, so
Okay. My internet is absolutely killing me. Go like this. Exit this one. And this. I can present the position. So, okay, let's go up.
okay, so no, we need someone who actually believes that. Do you actually believe that? Okay, I take you for your word. Okay, so that's the thing. We need to symbol and make changes in the process, so that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go to you. So in a couple of sentences, 2-3 sentences, say.
Okay, so he's got someone who actually believes it now. Kudos to him for trying to actually getting different views involved here. What I think is a very possible threat to this whole thing is they're so wide apart from each other. Like, couldn't he have given them like something to like a board where they put on a score and they can still huddle? Because now they are, as you can see, they're quite far apart, and he's going to have to traverse all the way back and forth, and somehow share time equally and hear arguments equally from both those sides. I just don't see it happening.
Why sexual orientation should not be discussed in elementary school. Briefly.
I believe that sexual orientation is a very deeply personal thing that should be developed by that person as and when they complete puberty, and that any attempts to undermine that by teaching somebody about that beforehand is a way to sexually groom them into whatever the teacher or instructor sees fit. And I also think it's suspicious that most of the instruction on sexual orientation to minors is happening by the LGBTQ community.
Okay. What is your opinion?
Okay. So let's think about that. So this guy is saying that he feels gender is a very deeply personal thing, and it shouldn't be discussed in school because it's so deeply personal and you have to develop it on your own. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. I guess what I think is that gender starts playing a role even in school. I mean, boys and girls are divided into different sports based on their gender. So it's also a social thing. As deeply personal as it is, it's also a social thing. So I think just thinking about one half of the argument is probably gonna get you only halfway to the correct answer. I don't know. It's not a personally isolated thing. I think also most people perceive themselves as being more feminine or more masculine based on people they know and examples they know and how they relate with those people. It's a very social thing, and that's why it's a social problem. So it's not as deeply personal as that. I think he says he's really suspicious of the LGBTQ community being the only ones teaching gender, and I think that is a bit suspicious. If let's say any community wanted to make a sole claim on what certain children or certain age children should be learning, we should definitely question that. We should say, well, what reasons do you have for thinking this is the best method? How does it compare with other methods? Things like that. I think there's questions to be asked about that. So yeah, I don't really have a quarrel with that final bit where he says it is suspicious, because it is suspicious. You don't want people to get into the education system with like ideological goals in mind, because that's how you ruin an educational system. Education should be a process of learning people what we know and learning them how we generate knowledge and how they will generate knowledge. And yeah, so it's not about imparting like your view onto children, and that part is suspicious, I think. So no, let's see. Next guy.
I don't think that public education has the authority to, I guess, influence those. But it says discuss, not influence. To discuss those, because it can influence, I guess, their minds, and also kids of the age are very not are undeveloped and don't have, I guess, are easily swayed as well for the most part. And so I don't think they have authority that should be within the home, within that person, within their family. Okay, I think I understand.
Okay, so what I think about that is he's basically saying that, listen, there are certain things that parents should have authority over, and there's certain things that the school can have authority over, and discussing gender and identity is not one of the things that schools should have authority over. And presuming then that the parents should have the authority. But I think there's also an underlying assumption here that is kind of alluding to that children don't really understand nuance and complexity as well. So, and this is a really nuanced and complex topic, and therefore children should not yet be exposed to it, because they're very easily influenced by people with, let's say, certain persuasive ideas. So I think, yeah, I can see how that's reasonable objections. I feel like there are some things that you don't really want schools to teach your kids. Most people feel that way. And you have a right to object to certain things being taught in schools. But if you are probably not part of the majority, you're going to have to search for an alternative school. Yeah.
You are. Let's get you in the middle there. That's good. Thanks. Appreciate that. You're on the agree line. Tell us why.
Well, the way the question's phrased, this is like should not, like definite black and white not. The guy's is definitely should, absolutely should. I agree that there could be an opportunity for some discussion somewhere based, K through 6, perhaps in 6th grade, perhaps with permission of the parents, perhaps in special groups, perhaps. I don't want to close the door on never.
So in your opinion,
Okay, so this guy is taking a less like definite no stance. He's actually providing reasons for how he could be persuaded for it being convincing, or for it actually having actually being able to be implemented at the end of the day.
you don't want to say never because you think that there could be exceptions, like parent night or something.
Right.
Okay.
I definitely disagree that it should be done, always done, and it definitely shouldn't be done secretly or behind parents' backs without their saying. So,
But that's right. That's not that's just discussed.
Right, just-
Okay. You strongly disagree. Sexual orientation should not be discussed in school. Tell us in 2 or 3 sentences why.
Yeah, I think discussing sexual orientation is as simple as saying, like, hey, some people are gay, you know, some men like men, some women like women. I don't think that's going to tear apart any kids. And I actually think it does a great deal in enhancing equality if kids view certain kinds of relationships as acceptable. I think if they're socialized in a way that, you know, they're not, I think it has some pretty negative outcomes. So I'd like them to just understand that it's okay.
What do you mean by equality?
Okay, so I know what Peter's going to do. So he did not scrutinize a single thing the other people said who agree with the claim. Not a single thing. And this guy actually gave a few good reasons for what he believes. And Peter's going to street epistemology the fuck out of him. I don't know. He's just ready. He's just ready for. He heard the word equality, so he's gonna. And I understand that. I would also do that, but he's doing it super aggressively because he knows. Look how this guy is standing. Like he knows he's under threat here, and that's not very good for the conversation. I think this guy should not feel like he's being threatened. He should not know Peter's position based on the interview, and Peter's really aggressive.
Quality.
So if you have a decent set of people who believe that your very relationship and the way it exists is wrong, that's kind of an inherent imposition of inequality onto you.
Okay. Did anybody want to, you two in particular, does anybody want to address that? Did anything he say resonate with you? Not did you have to agree with it, but did anything you say is like, oh yeah,
Okay. So I asked him what he means by equality. I actually just missed that. So let me just rewatch that.
he say resonate with you?
And the way it exists is wrong. That's a decent set of people who believe that your very relationship, I think it has some pretty negative outcomes. So I'd like them to just understand that it's okay.
What do you mean by equality?
So if you have a decent set of people who believe that your very relationship and the way it exists is wrong, that's kind of an inherent imposition of inequality onto you.
Okay.
Okay.
Did anybody want to?
So
does anybody
that was a really cogent argument. So if you have a decent set of people who are in imposition of your position, then you are at an inequality. And by definition, that's what inequality means. So, yeah, okay, cool.
want to address that? Did anything he say resonate with you? Not did you have to agree with it, but did anything you say is like, oh yeah, I can see that. What did he say?
So I could see that. Yeah, because discussing sexual orientation could be anything. It could be just saying, you know, talking about gay, lesbian, whatever. So in that, I mean, yeah, it could be, but also I think it's a very slippery slope. Talking about it and discussing it, especially with those young people, I don't think it is okay to do that because some people can take it too far and it could turn bad really quick.
Okay, but what if we limited the discussion to like not grooming, to use your word, but actual discussion? Like, look, we know that some people are gay. We know that some, you know, like what 2% bonobos and so there's a whole book about what percentage by species. Like we know this, and to have a factual discussion, not a values.
Okay, so I think what Peter is hinting at here is like, how can we want our children to believe true things, because we generally want to believe true things, and we want to get certain value judgments out of the question and give them the facts. And he's trying to like elude out of the guy. One of the people said they strongly agree that it should not be discussed. So he agrees that it should not be discussed. Like, is there some sort of facts that would just get you to say, okay, that this is acceptable because it's fact?
face push, but just a discussion.
I don't think so at the elementary level, because like I said before, kids aren't really as developed yet. They're still learning. They're easily influenced, and I just don't think that that's appropriate for that age level.
What do you think you understood his arguments?
I did. He's saying essentially that discussion of sexual orientation is not appropriate during elementary school. Am I correct in that? Okay, so I guess my counterpoint would be, I think a lot of kids already learn to a degree about sexual orientation. And mind you, we're not talking about sex. We're not talking about telling kids about that directly. We're talking about sexual orientation, which is a very different thing. And I think given that kids already kind of learn about, heterosexual relationships, them being, kind of the norm that we're all used to and have established, I think it's, really no big deal for them to learn about alternate kinds of relationships.
So you said something interesting to me that I didn't think of until you said it. Do you think heterosexual relationships should be discussed in elementary school?
I don't think any sort of sexual orientation should be discussed in, frankly, any type of schooling, because any context of orientation is going to be sexual. And so when we talk about, well, some men like other men, the question arises, like what? How do men like other men? Do they like it in that they like to take it up to what? Because that's really what it gets down to in the end. Orientation will inherently devolve into sexual topics. And so...
Okay. So... I want to replay that again. Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, this guy said that, listen, we could discuss things. It's not like we're telling them about sex and how gay people are having sex versus how straight people are having sex versus how lesbians are having sex. It's just, listen, that you get different kinds of relationships, and some relationships are homosexual and some are heterosexual, and that's not something that anyone should be ashamed of. And then I think, Peter was very honest in saying that I didn't think of that, and then he went over to the other one of these guys who were extremely he's on the strongly agree side, and he said he said, do you think that heterosexuality should be discussed? And listen to what this guy is saying, because the question was, all right, should heterosexuality be discussed? And the guy gave straight up, he said, I don't think any sexuality should be discussed. And then for his explanation, he immediately goes to homosexuality. Okay, so he doesn't want to explain it from a heterosexual view, because he can't really say probably something bad about his own sexual orientation, can he? So he's just bouncing over straight to, but what if children ask their teacher, do gay people like to take it up there? You know what? I mean, seriously, have you never even, what if the child asks the teacher, why do some women like taking it up the you know what? All right, because we do know that there are women that take it up the you know what, right? So, well, why not use that that analogy? All right.
Talk about romance, and that is a bit different because it's...
Okay, let's go back, because I want to hear that first part again.
That I didn't think of until you said it. Do you think heterosexual relationships should be discussed in elementary school?
I don't think any sort of sexual orientation should be discussed in, frankly...
Okay, so there he says, I don't think any sexual orientation should be discussed, frankly, in any situation. And he could have just stopped there, because that's the end of his position. Okay, that would include heterosexual relationships, right? Okay, so he's basically said no by just answering the overarching. But then he goes on about homosexuality, and that's his justification for saying no.
Any type of schooling, because any context of orientation is going to be sexual. And so when
any context of orientation is going to be sexual. Any context of orientation is going, no, that's bullshit. You don't have to do orientation that is sexual. All right. So if you say that some women like to be in relationships with other women. That could be that. It doesn't have to go into some women like having sex with other women. All right? That's that's not what it has to go into. It doesn't have to be sexual. It could be just relational. You could just discuss that these are the relationships that people prefer. Okay, not the type of sex that people prefers. All right?
When we talk about, well, some men like other men, the question arises, like what?
Yeah, so he goes into homosexuality here, but and he says, so some men like other men. So what does that amount to? And listen where he goes with this.
How do men like other men? Do they like it in that they like to take it up to you know what? Because that's really what it gets down to in the end.
How do men like other men? Do they like to take it up to you know what? No, not necessarily. I'm pretty sure there are gay men out there who do not take it up to you know what at all. And I'm pretty sure there are some straight men that do take it up to you know what. All right. And I'm pretty sure there are some gay and straight women that also do the same. So he's just he's not talking about the relationship. The previous guy was talking about heterosexual relationships, and he said it doesn't have to be sexual. And this guy goes straight towards the sexual part. He's saying that some people prefer relationships with certain types of people. Don't go into the sex, but that's the first thing this guy went into. And with the wrong type of relationship. He said homosexuals when the question was about heterosexuality. It's frustrating. And I think Peter even looks really confused by what this guy's saying. Like, why did you just say that? Why would you mention
Orientation
that?
will inherently devolve into sexual topics. And so
It will not inherently devolve if you have a like a sex addict class, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think that is. And if it does, just say, listen, that's beyond the scope of this classroom. Okay? If a child asks a question which you know that their parents wouldn't like you to answer as a teacher, just say, I'm not going to answer that question because it's beyond the scope of this classroom. And that's the end of that. And then you refer them to ask their parents rather than yourself. It's as easy as that.
I think I'm tracking. What would be wrong about or bad about that?
So discussion about sexual orientation cannot be divorced from discussions about sex, because this is the way in which sexual orientation is. You know, we can talk about romance, and that is a bit different because it's more of a personal relationship, but sexual orientation is in its nature and by definition sexual.
Right. And what would be wrong about having that discussion? Even like the culmination of the act.
So
Not the value promotion of it, but the factual.
I think conversation in terms of children, we must recognize that children have a certain naivete and they have a certain innocence that we almost all of us agree needs to be protected. And so discussion about sexual orientation before the development of puberty and the natural recognition of sex leads to sexual perversions and other.
So did you think that if
That's very, very Freudian of him to say. Maybe maybe not giving them a protective environment in which to start to understand these things, maybe letting them discover it on their own weird way is fine, but maybe that leads to sexual perversions because they don't know how to conceive of it because they weren't taught properly. Okay, but the parents can do that as well. So it's not needed to be at school, but you can't protect children forever. And yeah, I don't know. It's not, you're gonna have to draw the line somewhere. I understand that, but where everyone's gonna have a different idea about where that should be, right?
a child learns about two guys, for example, that's likely to sway his opinion to want to be gay?
I do, yes.
And why would that be bad?
I don't think any child should engage in or learn about sexuality before puberty. People just aren't wired that way. They're not made for it, and it's wholly unnatural.
Okay. Wait, wholly unnatural. Okay. What if I could show you? What if you could see evidence? I wish I remember the name of the book. Of the influence.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure Peter Boghossian has no idea, almost said no idea, no problem with people being gay. So this is something he's going to target this guy on, because it's something that he doesn't agree with. And it seems like that this is kind of the thing with most freedom epistemology is you have the best conversations when you don't agree with people, but you also have the best conversations when you don't try to sway someone's mind. So I don't think Peter Boghossian is going to try and sway this guy's mind about gay people, but he is going to try and get a good explanation out of this guy. And I think he should take that same type of stance, because he's doing it a little bit less aggressive than the gender politics question that the other guy. And I can understand that you're going to be less aggressive on things that you agree more with at the end of the day. Although I don't think he agrees with children knowing that people are gay is a bad thing, because that causes more people to become gay. Yeah, so this is why is that a bad thing? Like, why should we shelter people against being gay?
The incidence of homosexuality throughout the animal kingdom, would that be sufficient evidence that it's natural?
So there's usually one example that the LGBT community will bring up in terms of homosexuality manifesting in the animal kingdom, and that one is bonobos. Virtually every other animal, it displays entirely heterosexual relationships. Bonobos in particular, they have some very interesting sexual...
Peter clearly disagree with him. Yeah, I think this is where Anthony Magnabosco and what's his name? What's the other guy's name? It's also from Cordial Curiosity. They're so good, because they can hear the most shocking thing and not even blink. Like they will be the perfect psychologists. And Peter Boghossian just gave a little bit of a twink there, just to show. What?
Bonobos in particular, they have some very interesting sexual perversions as well. They will also eat their children. And so I don't think that bonobos should be model for sexual orientation.
Okay, I'm coming.
Okay. What?
That the LGBT community will bring up in terms of homosexuality manifesting in the animal kingdom, and that one is bonobos. Virtually every other animal, it displays entirely heterosexual relationships. Bonobos...
I wonder if he even realized he shook his head like that, because I think he knows that's false. We've even, if I'm not mistaken, we've actually observed homosexuality in rats. Sexuality in... Just first this is... So what I'm doing now is completely against what street epistemology is. So it's not about giving people evidence that they're wrong. It's just about asking questions to explore their beliefs, right? So I went on Google Scholar and Googled homosexuality in rats, and I got 30,700 results in 0.08 section. Is homosexuality hormonally determined? That's one of neurohormonal functioning and sexual orientation, a theory of homosexuality. Induction and prevention of male homosexuality homosexuality by androgen. So, evidence for a biological influence in male homosexuality. Homosexuality in female rats following testosterone implantation in the anterior hypothalamus. This is from Boghossian Scientifica, pretty good one. Archives of sexual behavior, sex hormones, and male. So yeah, we've actually we've seen homosexuality in other animals. So what that guy believes is just plainly false. But it doesn't help, like you, if you point him towards evidence, you gotta like ask, if I were to show you, okay, studies that show that rats show homosexuality, or studies that show that some other animal shows homosexuality, would you then believe that homosexuality is natural? And if the answer is yes, then good for it. After the show in the studies, if you want to. If not, ask him, okay, well then what evidence could I show you to prove to you that homosexuality is natural?
In particular, they have some very interesting sexual perversions as well. They will also eat their children. And so I don't think that bonobos should be.
Okay. So because bonobos eat their children, we shouldn't use them as a model for something else. Like, because, let's say, lions kill the cubs of previous alpha lions, we shouldn't use them as a model for something else. I don't understand why you would do that. If they're a bad model for sexuality, then don't use them for sexuality. If they're a bad model for childcare, don't use them as a model for childcare. It's silly.
The model for sexual orientation.
Okay, I'm coming back to you. Okay, at what age did you choose to be straight?
Okay, so this is a completely different question, completely new question. At what age did you choose to be straight? I think I've always felt straight. I don't think I really chose to be straight. To be honest, I think I just always felt attracted to women and not to men. I don't think I chose that. I cannot remember thinking, today I make the decision to only like women, not men. It's a stupid question.
I don't know. Probably. I mean, I suppose somewhere in my youth, probably around. I suppose maybe 4th or 5th grade.
And did you sit down and like think about it? Like,
okay, so this guy is against primary school. I think he said specifically primary education, but against sexual orientation. But if you make the decision by 4th or 5th grade, all right, how is a child supposed to make an informed decision if you aren't allowed to discuss it even? Like, this is, he's on two sides of a balance here. He's like, okay, you got to make the decision by this time, but you're not allowed to it's not allowed to be discussed by this time. I don't really understand that.
like, oh, there's John when we like to hold his hand, and oh, there's Sue. I mean, was it like a deliberative, you know what I mean? Like, was it something you just thought about?
I guess not. I guess it was more just a natural, thing. Just I guess
I agree.
I realized it was natural, so it just kind of was. I suppose born into it and thought that's the way it should be.
So that's the position I also take. Like, I feel like I have just always been straight. I don't think I made the choice at any. But how can you then say that if someone else says they just naturally feel gay, how can you discredit that then? So it's like, what's different between you naturally feeling straight and them naturally feeling gay? What's the difference there? And how could we show that either one of you could be wrong about what you feel if one of you is in fact wrong? How could we do that?
B,
Do you mind if I ask you a series of deeply personal questions? You can say no.
sure.
Are you straight?
Yes.
What amount of watching homosexual pornography would turn you into a homosexual?
None.
Okay. Do you think it's because your sexuality is fixed?
Yeah.
Do you think it was fixed in adulthood, or do you think it was fixed in childhood?
Sexuality and
Sexual orientation.
I guess it was fixed in childhood.
So if it was fixed in childhood, then those arguments wouldn't stand.
But what arguments?
The I don't know his name. The argument that the guy in front of you made, that it could somehow influence someone's sexual orientation.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, because
That's actually true. Like if it's fixed, what amount of discussion could change? Okay, maybe what amount of discussion could change a kid's mind about whether they are gay or straight? I think that's a better question. But I understand Peter's point here. It's, one guy is saying, listen, it was fixed then, and the next guy's and the previous guy said, well, if we discuss it too much, then more people are going to turn out gay. So which one is it?
obviously a lot of people are confused or don't have those decisions made up.
So if you're not straight, you're confused. Is that what you're saying? If you do not if you're anything but heterosexual, are you then confused?
And so they could possibly be confused and want to change or think there's something that they're not, or think of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So I've been baffled by
Okay, and think about, so this guy has not been a part of the conversation for at least, I think, 10 minutes. So he's been standing there doing nothing for about 10 minutes, expected to keep track of other people's views. And then he's probably now going to affiliate closely their views with his views or something close to that.
So let's say it's the case. I'm not saying it's the case, but let's just pretend for the purpose of the conversation that it is the case. Let's say it's the case that if a young kid gets exposed, they have a discussion and they say some people are gay, and it never heard it in his life. Maybe they're from some kind of community. I don't know where in Arkansas or something, but it just, I don't know where I came up with that, but it puts it in their head. Oh wow, like I can be with a guy, and like let's say they think they, I'm really going on here, and then they have a sexual experience with a guy. What would be the problem with that? Period. One, and two, what would be the problem with getting the idea from knowing that homosexuals exist? Like, what would be problematic about that?
At what age?
Well, elementary school.
This is difficult for me. I'm a different generation than the rest of these people.
Me too.
So
I'm older than you.
I'll be 57 in a week.
Okay, I take that back.
All right. Show your elders some respect, sir. Thank you. It's difficult. That's why I'm on the agree line and not the strongly agree, is that there's, you're painting things black and white with a definitive line down the middle. It's just been my nature and what I do for a living. I don't take sides. I play the middle, and I have to go with the facts and the data, and I get some discretion what I do.
I like this guy. He's saying all the right things. Yeah, and he's a bit older, so he's probably seen a bit more things. I think it's going to be easier for Peter to relate to this guy. Let's see.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so what facts or data would you have to move one step to the left or one step to the right?
There's really no facts or data in this. And this is all the only facts and data that I could see is what would make his position untenable would be the grooming part, which he's not talking about. He's talking about a discussion about it, which is why I'm not over there. Okay, and these young gentlemen are in a position where they're afraid of just a mere conversation about it would be considered grooming, and the implanting of that would be a seed that would somehow flourish later in life.
Do you think that's the case?
No, I don't.
So
I think if it's going to be, I don't want to say grooming like this criminal perverted sense that we've been hearing about so much, but just like, but you have to convince people. Like,
okay, and so I just want to make sure. So you're a data and evidence guy, and what evidence could that gentleman there provide you with? I don't know anybody's name, and these gentlemen provide you with here. What could they provide you with that would cause you to move a step to the left, and what could he tell you to move to step to the right? Now hold on, think about that, because I'm coming back to you.
Why would you do that? You barely listen to this guy. You barely listen to this guy. You haven't even asked him a question. Oh, well, you've asked him a question and fucking walked away. Why? This is why I don't think Peter's practicing his his own book really well. He's not. He's trying, like, he in his book with James Lindsay, How to Have Impossible Conversation, says that, listen, you have to take these things step by step by step. You have to slowly build on your skills. And he's just jumping in, interviewing multiple people at a time and fucking wrecking it. If I was this guy, I wouldn't have been happy now. I was like, do you ever, why am I not being listened to? Like, or why can't I even answer one question? Come on.
Okay, so you heard those arguments. So you're still here, and you haven't moved, so I assume you still believe what you believe. Okay, so what could you tell them? What do they know? What do you know? Nobody in this room wants to be wrong one more second than they have to be, right? Nobody. You don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be one. Okay, nobody wants to be wrong. So obviously there's a substantive disagreement, difference of opinion. So what do you know that they don't know that would cause them not to walk to there, but to walk one line? What do you know? What could you tell them to move them one line? What data, as this gentleman says, facts, evidence, reason?
Once again, this is just this should come from the person who is supposedly who you want to move. You shouldn't ask someone, what data could you give? What data do you have that you think they don't have? That's not the right question. You should go to the people who want to move. If you want to ask this guy a question, you've got to ask, what data could they give you to make you move? He's not following the rules of his own book, and because he's not experienced enough. I mean, why, Peter? It's hard to watch. It's really it's tough to watch, to be honest. But let's see.
Do you think they're missing?
I think that one of the things is that sex education, maybe not education on sex orientation specifically, but the broader field, it actually reduces incidence of childhood sexual assault in everywhere where it's taught. So like, because if kids have the means to identify that something bad is happening to them, they're going to identify that to a trusted adult.
Okay, and so you think that the weighing of the identification and weighing of sexual assault weighs heavier than the possibility of somebody having a discussion, an elementary school student having a discussion about sex in school and kind of turning them into a homosexual?
I don't think people really get turned into homosexuals.
I'm trying to, so I'm trying to give the position, well, what would you say? How else would you encapsulate the position other than turning into homosexual?
So, I mean, I guess if we were to say that people would hypothetically have their sexuality in some way altered at a premature age.
Well, that would be turning into a homosexual.
Well, I mean, it can't just necessarily be turning into a homosexual. You could have your sexuality altered and you're more expressive with it or something like that.
Okay, so, all right, so I want to make, so his claim.
Okay, this is just so frustrating because he's just making this hard conversation harder by not letting points flow. I don't know. I'm gonna stop this. It's tough to watch. Maybe I'll do the rest. I'll remember I'm at 5:15, 42. So I'll continue on another time. I may have a little bit of brain cancer from trying to follow this. You shouldn't. I just think Peter shouldn't try to make these conversations so complex. I think he needs to watch some street epistemology and take some actual notes from people who are really good at street epistemology, because what he's doing now is just having people separate into factions and then trying to coordinate a very disorganized discussion, and I don't think it's very productive. I don't think anyone there is going to change their mind, and he's trying to get people to change their minds. I think he's very adamant on, okay, like, how could I get you to shift? How can I get you to shift? Instead of just first exploring everyone's, he wants to do all the steps of his whole book about how to change people's minds or how to have impossible conversations in the time you would have that same go through all that with one person. He wants to do that with 4 people now, and it's just not working. It's not working. But okay, I think that's all for now. I actually hope it stays on YouTube. Let's see. I think I'm gonna stop now. Okay. That was me. My name is Juan, and I just try to make sense of how to have more productive conversations. I think we shouldn't focus on impossible conversations. We should focus on productive conversations. And yeah, goodbye.